views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime. Today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up on today's show, a major upset in the race for Congress as Congressman Joseph Crowley is upset. Also, the Bronx comes together to remember a teenager savagely murdered. This as police make arrests in yet another case. Later, hundreds of immigrant families from across the U.S. border have been torn from their families. We'll bring you more details about that. Then, a not-for-profit organization providing food, clothes, medical care, and basic needs for homeless teenagers in an effort to improve the lives of teenagers in the Bronx. Today, we're going to talk about an event that will help change the mindset of our youth and improve the future. And then afterwards, the history of the Bronx can be told in many ways. We'll discuss the history of the borough through photography archives of the city's oldest Spanish newspaper, El Diario. All this and much more is heading your way, so stay tuned. We're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, June 27, 2018. Of course, you're watching Open, a live program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We want to also welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is now being broadcast live simultaneously on MNN's channel. So stay with us. You can find out more about us at Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, a lot has been going on in the world of news this past week, and we'll take you now to some Bronx updates. Funeral services are being held at this hour for Lisandro Guzman Feliz, a Bronx teen fatally stabbed in a brutal attack in Belmont. Hundreds of mourners are gathered at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Belmont, paying respects to the teenager. Guzman Feliz was viciously attacked and stabbed by a gang of men inside a Bronx bodega in a case of mistaken identity last Wednesday. The brutal attack captured on video sparked outrage and a national social campaign using the hashtag Justice for Junior. NBA and former New York Knicks star Carmelo Anthony and celebrity wife Lala, as well as New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio and Police Commissioner James O'Neill, were among thousands of mourners who visited the Guzman family during the past week. 8 suspects have been arrested in connection with the teen's murder. Yesterday, a judge ordered the extradition of 6 suspects from New Jersey. The 15-year-old had dreams of becoming a detective and participated in the NYPD Explorers program for youth that are interested in a career in law enforcement. Now, the NYPD authorities are saying they're still investigating and more arrests could be made, as well as additional charges given to each of the suspects. Well, it was a stunning upset heard around the country as Congressman Joseph Crowley was defeated by the Bronx's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in last night's New York Democratic primary. Ocasio-Cortez, a 28-year-old former campaign organizer for Bernie Sanders, defeated Crowley by a 14% margin across the 14th district, capturing more than 57% of the vote. Crowley, the number 4 Democrat in the House, was considered as a possible replacement for Nancy Pelosi if the Dems were to take the House in November. Last night's loss sent shockwaves across Washington, even drawing the attention of President Donald Trump, who took to Twitter weighing in on the race, releasing this statement, saying, quote, "Wow, big Trump hater Congressman Joe Crowley, who many expected to go, or I should say to take the Nancy Pelosi's place, just lost his primary election. In other words, he's out. That's a big no one saw that happening. Perhaps he should have been nicer and more respectful to his president," end quote. Now, Crowley's defeat marks the first major primary loss by a Democratic incumbent in recent history. Stay with us here on Open, because a little later on the show, our political analyst will break down what this means and how the race will affect both New Yorkers and the Democratic Party going forward. Well, in other news, the Supreme Court has upheld President Donald Trump's travel ban in a 5-4 vote. The ban, issued in September, restricts entry from several countries, including Iran, North Korea, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, and Venezuela. Now, the court ruled the president is within his power in exercising the ban, and his statements accusing Muslims of posing a threat against the United States could not be used against him as a means of blocking the travel restriction. Former Bronx judge and Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote a sharp dissent condemning the court's decision to uphold the travel ban, describing it as, quote, harrowing and motivated by the hostility and animus towards the Muslim faith, end quote. Meanwhile, President Trump is calling the decision a tremendous victory and promised to continue to use his office to defend the country against terrorism, crime, and extremism. A federal judge in California has ordered the U.S. government to stop separating children from their parents at the border to reunite families already separated. The decision, handed down late Tuesday night, calls for all separated families to be reunited with the children over the next 30 days, as well as children under the age of 5 years old to be returned to custody of their parents within 2 weeks. The president and his administration have been under fire recently for their handling and separating of families at the border. 17 states, including New York, as well as the District of Columbia, have filed federal lawsuits seeking to end the separation process. Well, the annual New York Salutes America fireworks extravaganza, which is also a celebration of the communities comprising the borough, will take place at the beach in Pelham Bay Park on Thursday, June 28th. The event, featuring a fireworks extravaganza by the world-renowned Fireworks by Garucci, is also a boardwalk festival featuring musical entertainment and a program at 7 p.m. at the beach stand, also followed by fireworks around 9:20 p.m. The Bronx Tourism Council produces the event, which is again hosted this year by Senator Jeff Kline and Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. Now, for more information, you can visit www.ilovethebronx.com. Well, this concludes our Bronx updates. Coming up after the break, our political team breaks down last night's historic upset. We'll be right back, right after this.
I guess sometimes things just happen. Devastating things. Your whole world changes in an instant. That's what happened to me the day my mother had a stroke. I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. Protect the ones you love. Spot a stroke fast.
Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant! Behold, the angry giant! It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Chiru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund reading.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
For all the papas out there, Let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
And we're back. Yesterday, New York State held its primary election for Congress, in which District's 14 candidate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez defeated incumbent Joseph Crowley. Now, our cameras were at Ocasio-Cortez's election party, and this is what one of her supporters had to say.
Because I believe in her message. I think what resonated with me was the Medicare for all. What resonated for me was also abolishing ICE. I think that one of the things that we're seeing now is this awful, right, establishment that is pushing families apart. And so I think that when she came strong against ICE, I think that was one of the most important issues for me.
And so also in another race, we want to tell you that the House District 16, Elliot Engel, the incumbent, won by a 74% margin, defeating both Jonathan Lewis, Joyce Briscoe, and Derrickson Lawrence in the race for the 16th. Now, here to talk a little bit more about the congressional race and Ocasio-Cortez's stunning upset. We welcome now to our studio political experts, Lee Bynes and J.C. Blanco. Good to have you both.
Good to be back.
Okay,
Hi,
so,
how are you?
I mean, it's the morning after. A lot of people are still asking questions. What happened? And I started with a little question about, are you surprised? Let me start off first with J.C.
I'm shocked. This is insane. Look, the new congresswoman, or the soon-to-be congresswoman, was almost 10 years old when Joe Crowley left the state assembly and went into Congress. I mean, this is very interesting to see someone without any elective office in New York City, someone with so much youth, get elected to Congress and actually leapfrog over so many other elected officials that have been working very hard trying to build a resume and build the leadership record so that they can one day succeed the powerful Congressman Crowley. At the end, or in the end, I think my district where he represented will lose. And the reason we will lose in the short term, at least, is that he was the fourth ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives and a potential candidate to be Speaker of the House. Think about how much we got as a district because of his seniority. Now we're going to start new.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Let me get Lee on this.
Well, you know what? A lot of people were surprised and shocked, et cetera, but as I mentioned to you earlier, I've been looking at the situation for the last between 8 and 9 months. I could probably see the fact that this young woman spoke to the people. This young woman spoke to that invisible group that's somewhere between the shrinking middle class and the poor, which I describe now as the struggling class, and not many people are talking to them right now. This individual, Mr. Crowley, his major failing was not actually coming out and talking to the people. He missed 2 debates. He cited scheduling issues, and I'm trying to think to myself what could be more important than actually showing up to a debate to talk to your constituents and tell them where you're coming from. This lady tapped into the needs of people who are working 2 jobs, 2 part-time jobs in order to make ends meet, but those 2 part-time jobs don't offer enough health care. Or if they are making enough money, they're making too much money to qualify for subsidies. That's why she won.
JC got a different theory on this, I see.
Yeah, I think look, I was once a young man. I turned 41 last week, can you believe it? So, but when I was 18, I ran for the assembly. When I was 25, I ran for the assembly. And when I was 39, I ran for city public advocate, right? Mm-hmm. So I have had that youth streak, wanted to run for office. So I'm a little bit of a hater right now, seeing her actually win an election. But to be honest, I mean, you have someone without any elective office experience now representing 720,000 people. I think that couple of reasons are a dismal turnout. You have hundreds of thousands of registered voters, about 24,000 cared to show up to vote. And then another thing is that this district has changed demographically incredibly. You went from a district that was once the Archie Bunker district, where the All in the Family episodes we used to watch, to now a very much diverse district. And lastly, there's a radical shift to the left in the Democratic Party. This candidate is a bona fide socialist. She's a self-declared member of the New York Socialist Democratic Party. She was asked in a debate, she was asked, would you endorse Joe Crowley if he wins in a primary? She said, I'm going to have to speak to my organizations. As you know, I'm being supported by the New York State Democratic Socialists. I mean, so this is someone who is very far to the left. I think that if the Democratic Party continues to move that far to the left, you may blow your chances of winning in November the House of Representatives and the Senate.
See, I doubt that seriously, simply because of the fact that this young woman and I have no hate whatsoever for the millennials and the people coming back, because these people are voting for their future. I'll be 62 in July right now.
Great.
We've had our opportunities. The mainstream Democrats have not done what they were supposed to do to take care of the constituents that are depending on them. This woman has tapped into something. I see this situation being replicated in other areas of the country. And being a socialist is not necessarily a dirty word.
It's a terrible thing. But Lee, I got to tell you something interesting. You see how these guys complain about the mainstream Democrats haven't done enough? I sit here and think about what else do you want from these mainstream Democrats? They delivered on President Obama. They've given you free college education. They've given you marriage equality. They've given you so many free things, free internet, free phone. I mean, how much more do you want from the Democratic Party? What you really want is a new party, a socialist party, where you get free health care, free, not only free education, but free child care. Everybody makes a guaranteed minimum wage. Look, Congresswoman, soon to be, Cortez Ocasio, talked about a federal jobs guarantee. Look, there's something called progressive deception. And I think that right now, this is what's happening. You're promising so many things that you know you can't deliver on. Sort of like how President Trump talked about a border wall being created and that Mexico's going to pay for it. We knew he was lying then, and we knew that all this federal jobs guarantee stuff is never going to happen. There's a radical shift to the left that is going to cost you the House and the Senate.
I don't think... I think if you continue to say that none of these will ever happen, then young people will be so disappointed and so dejected and so disenfranchised that they won't show up to vote. The fact is that they are young. They still have that spirit that, yes, we can do this, is that a lot of people who are coming out of the shadows and say that, look, if we get ourselves together, we can do this on our own. The young people, this woman tapped into the grassroots of the party, and she spoke to the people, not the donors.
Let me ask the question going forward. Where do you go from here? Because as JC said, fourth-ranking Democrat in the House. He definitely has a lot of support amongst Democrats. When you talk about influence and bringing influence home and fighting for New Yorkers, that influence gets lost because now you have a freshman. If she wins in November, you got a freshman congresswoman. She starts at the bottom of the totem pole. How do you balance this out? And what good comes of this for New Yorkers possibly?
She brings fresh new ideas. She brings fresh new ideas. She gives the Democratic establishment a reason to think a second time before they just go out there and just expect minorities, women, the gay and lesbian community just to show up simply because of the fact that they have nobody else to address their needs.
JC on that.
It just is no difference ideologically when you think about the true principles of the Democratic Party and Congressman Crowley. Look, the only reason this man lost was because of changing demographics. That's really what it came down to. This person, I've never met her before. I'm sure she's a phenomenal human being. And her claim to fame is that she's an activist. We have many activists. That doesn't mean you get to go to Congress.
And also, let's say, which we did not say, an organizer for Bernie Sanders' presidential
campaign. Still, all of that, to sit now in Congress, I mean, that's great. Congratulations. But the reality is, I'm a constituent. Now I'm concerned. We just lost the number 4th ranking Democrat and someone who was rumored to be the next speaker if the Democrats were to take over the House of Representatives. It's a big hit as far as my district is concerned. Now, what is it that she promised that was so different? I tell you what she promised. She said that ICE was a terrorist organization and she wants to work to abolish ICE. I mean, it's almost as insane as when Ted Cruz talked about abolishing the IRS. Who's going to collect the taxes? Who's going to stop illegal immigration? These are naive policies that I think are pushing the party, so far to the left. The guys in the middle, like me, are going to say clearly, you're not giving us some real alternatives.
I would not say that you are in the middle. I would say that you are definitely to the right of the situation.
I'm in the middle. Totally. Trust me. The right has abandoned
nobody
me.
Trusts
the left doesn't like me. I'm in the middle.
Nobody trusts attorneys. Nobody trusts politicians. let's just keep this real, okay? The fact of the matter is that, because I'm neither.
You're a journalist.
and my job is to tell the truth.
Okay.
But basically speaking, this woman is going to, as I said before, this all comes down to dollars and cents. This woman raised her money from the grassroots. She raised her money from the people that she's talking to.
But I'll ask the question is this. She raised money, but yet and still, when you look at the money that Congressman Crowley raised, he outspent her. And yet and still, even outspending her, she still comes away with victory.
Because she's talking to the people.
If she were, you wouldn't have 24,000 people showing up to vote.
He's talking to the donors.
She won the election with 12,000. She's going to represent over 700,000 people. There's no way she's talking to the people when the people stayed home. This was a low turnout election. And you know what's interesting about this? These elected officials like to have the two primaries, one in July and one in September. It's supposed to be like an incumbent protection system. And this time it backfired. Having a primary in July created a storm where there was low voter turnout and it gave room for her to pull it off. Now, I wish her the best. If you see me in the street, Congresswoman, soon to be, I'm not a bad guy, and I think you're going to be okay. But I'm just talking here, analyzing your race and really looking at the numbers. And I haven't met you before, and I know a lot of guys that have been waiting forever for this opportunity. So it's interesting to see how you pulled this off. Congratulations and good luck.
Yeah, so let me ask this question about the June primary, because a lot of people say the June primary should not happen. We should be closer to September. There are a lot of people who woke up this morning and said primary. I thought it was in September.
Yeah.
Talk about it. I mean, a lot of New Yorkers in particular are still waking up in the morning like, what did I miss?
Yeah. Well, you know, it was an incumbent protection system. You had senators in Albany who said, I want to get 2 bites at the apple. No, honestly, they said, if I run for Congress and lose, I can still run for my Senate seat. So the votes that you need to change the primary date weren't there because you had guys like Senator Espaillat that wanted a bite at the apple, Senator Lee Zeldin out of Long Island that was a senator that wanted to run for Congress and just in case wanted to be able to run for the Senate in September. So you have political considerations, but at the end of the day, we're spending millions of dollars on 2 primaries, knowing full well that we don't need them and that it's creating a low voter turnout. So there needs to be a change. What do you think?
The more opportunities that people have to show up at the polls and be able to express themselves and be able to tell the people that they expect to lead them, the better. I cannot see that the outcome would have been any different had this situation have been postponed or had been whittled down to just one opportunity. As long as you have these issues in front of the people will respond, the people will show up. As far as the voter turnout is concerned during these primaries and intermediary election processes, generally there are lower turnouts. Most people do only focus on the presidential elections, but in this situation, at the lower end of the ballot, that's where it really happens.
Let me jump in here and throw this out here. We're talking about New York now. We're talking about New York. So let's look at the Democratic primary yesterday. Congressman Engel, almost 21,000 votes. Jonathan Lewis, almost 5,000 votes. Joy Briscoe, and I'm rounding off here, 2,000 votes. Derrickson Lawson, about 1,000 votes. That comes to 27,000 votes in the 16th district, right? Then you get to the 14th district. You got about 16,000 votes for Ocasio-Cortez, 12,000 for Crowley. You're at 27,000 votes for a congressional primary in the city of New York. What are we talking about?
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of registered voters that did not come out to vote in their districts. These are Congress members that are going to for sure go to Albany because there's very little token Republican opposition. And when they go, they're going to represent over 700,000 people. This is ridiculous. And quite frankly, there's 2 options here. Either change the primary date or really start getting serious with New Yorkers that aren't showing up to vote, because there's no reason why they didn't come out.
You get the final last word. We got a few seconds left.
What are you going to do to?
I think you know, guys like us will have to say you have a duty to come out and vote. This idea that you have to say.
It takes the last word.
You got the last word.
It's okay.
You don't think that there's a duty to vote? You don't think?
Absolutely, there's a duty.
So
to
why
vote.
are you staying home?
But
We got hundreds of thousands of people staying home watching TV. Get out.
You literally have to be given a reason to come out to vote.
You told me she did. You told me she gave them a reason. They stayed home. You see, Lee?
You have to give them a reason to come out to vote.
This is why they're coming back.
And then they did, and she gave enough people a reason, more so than Crowley did. Lee? It only takes one to win. That's it.
Hey, Lee got the last word. Lee, thanks much. JC, this is why we bring him here every week. Listen, thank you for joining us. We'll be right back. This ends our political segment. It doesn't end the political discussion. Of course, they'll be back next week bringing you news and more information. We'll be right back right after this.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments, Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
And we're back here on Open. What does the future hold for immigrant children? As hundreds of families are crossing the border, they're being separated from their children, some of them right here in the Bronx. Here on the phone joining us to talk more about that, New York State Senator Marisol Alcantara, who joins us, and welcome her now to Open. Thank you for sharing with us, Senator. Good to have you.
Thank you for inviting me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And listen, I want to thank you for sharing a little bit on this conversation. Let's talk and get right into it. I talked a little bit earlier in the show about a judge in California issuing the stay, saying that, listen, families have to be reunited with their loved ones, and particularly children under the age of 5. New York State did jump in on this lawsuit. I just want to get your thoughts on the latest ruling and how this affects us.
We are very excited because those of us that come from communities of color and marginalized communities know that this is not the first time that this country gets involved in separating families. You know, for a long time, that's how this country became the richest country in the planet, by separating African Americans from their children. We feel really good. This is the just thing to do. A lot of the stuff that the reason why so many immigrants are coming across the border is because they're victims of the United States foreign policy in a lot of this country.
I want to talk a little bit about your comments because you issued a statement actually condemning the Trump administration of separating, saying that I'm profoundly saddened by the news that the hundreds of immigrant families on the U.S. border have been torn from their children. These families have come here out of desperation only to be met by cruelty.
Oh, totally. You know, like I said before, we were the ones responsible in 2009 for doing a coup d'etat in Honduras, debilitating the democratic elected government that they had. We provided weapons to Nicaragua, to El Salvador, and all these countries. So when their economy has totally collapsed, when they're run by gang members and by a corrupt government, people have no choice but to flee, to come to the United States. You know, and it's interesting how his administration pretends like the United States doesn't benefit from all these immigrants coming over. Of course they benefit because all the farm work in this country is done by immigrant workers. A lot of them are documented. All the cheap labor that we have here is done by us. So it's like the Trump administration wants to give his voters, his base, this idea that he doesn't want any immigrants in this country, undocumented immigrants, when he himself has benefited from employing undocumented workers doing construction for him or working in business ventures.
Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about what's going on locally? I mean, we've heard about families being separated and families right here in the borough of the Bronx. What can you let our viewers know about how Bronxites have been affected by this?
Oh, you know, the case of a young man, Junior, that was killed. His parents are immigrants from the Dominican Republic. I don't know if you saw in the news yesterday, the 5 kids or 6 kids that were involved, only one of them spoke English. The rest of them needed translation. That means that they have not been in this country probably 1 or 2, 3 years. So what we are talking about immigration and the border and what's happening in the border, we also need to invest in this, this vibrant immigrant community that we have in the city of New York. My friends and I went to the neighborhood where Junior was killed. There's not a parking site. There's not a community center. There's construction going around, all around the South Bronx. They are not employing these young folks. And what it's great that we are paying attention to what's going on a national level. But I thought it was kind of like weird that the mayor found time to take a plane all the way to Texas to be at the border, but he couldn't. It took him 4 days to get to the Bronx, where this kid was killed, and where this immigrant community, there were over 1,000 people there, and most of them immigrants.
And when we talk about the immigrant community, huge numbers right here in the borough of the Bronx, you're saying that there should be added resources in the community of Belmont. Give me a little bit more about the resources available for immigrants. Given the fact of this heightened climate, are there a lot of resources still available for immigrants today?
Not in the Bronx. Doesn't have as many resources as other boroughs, believe it or not. My office is located in Upper Manhattan. I have a very good working relationship with my sister, Assemblywoman Carmen de la Rosa, Councilmember Rodriguez, and I can tell you that over 50% of the people that come to our offices to get immigration services or to get legal services, they just cross the 207 bridge or the 184th bridge. There's over 10 organizations in Washington Heights that provide immigration services. The Bronx right now has the largest concentration of Dominicans. The Bronx right now has the largest concentration of West Africans. If you go to the Park Center area, there's a big Bengali community. There's a big Mexican, Albanian community. There should be an immigration office in every corner in the Bronx, because that's where the immigrant community lives. And we need to make sure that our immigrant kids, I bet you that I was looking at these kids yesterday, sir, and I could tell you that all those kids are going to be deported because 9 out of 10, they're not American citizens. And we don't have anyone doing work with Latino youth out there in the streets telling them you are a green card holder. Anything you do can get you deported. This is information that is not getting out to the streets to the people that need it the most.
All right, New York Senator Marisol Alcantara, thank you so much for joining us here on Open, sharing a little bit about the conversation about undocumented immigrants. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
All righty. Thank you. And all right, we want you to stay with us. We got more show coming up after this. We're going to introduce you to a very special organization.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
And we are back here on Open, a not-for-profit organization providing food, clothes, and medical care for homeless teenagers. This in an effort to improve the lives of teenagers right here in our borough. Here to discuss their upcoming event is the CEO and founder of the Los Angeles Society, Sydia Colbert, and also the president, Edgar Plummer. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you for having us.
Good to have you. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your organization. I mean, we talked a little bit about it in the intro, but tell us what we should know.
So, go ahead.
So,
ladies first.
Yeah.
So the Los Angeles Society is basically me. I started it in 2011. It's an organization that that the universe allowed me to put together from my own personal story, from growing up as a homeless teenager from the ages of 16 to 21 and moving 21 times from pillar to post. So I always told myself if I ever got to the position where I can give back that I would, and I started Los Angeles Society. And
so,
here we are.
And a great organization is doing great work for homeless. So talk a little bit about your mission and how you carry it out.
So our mission is pretty much to just provide a safe haven for youth not to experience the same thing that Sydia, went through. We noticed that today our youth, they just need a place, an avenue to express themselves, to just feel loved and appreciated. There's a lot, just to hold them in a space to where they can create, and not having that creates that energy going in another route, So we definitely want to direct that energy in a positive way. Yeah.
So give me this about your experience, because obviously the reason that you're able to provide services and help in a major way is because you've had the experience yourself. What is it that maybe we don't know about when it comes to homeless youth?
So the main focus and what our goal is, my goal is to allow people to realize that lost angels are everywhere. You have them in churches, you have them in schools, you have them walking up and down the blocks. And growing up in the area that I grew up in, Long Island, we had outlets. Although, I'm a self-sufferer, so I didn't want other people to know. But when you come into the city, the 5 boroughs, there are no outlets, basically. And the outlets that are there, you have to pay. You either have to pay $100, but if your family can't afford it, then you're stuck and you're on the streets and you're in the parks and you're standing on the corners. I think the most important part is that we need outlets, and that's my goal. Into that we open up a facility to where there is an outlet that kids can come and pour out and receive a feeling. Not
only are you having outlets, but you guys have some special events too to really provide some services. So let's talk about a couple of events.
Well, the first one we have coming up is the Back to School Drive. That's taking place August 18th. This year we're going to do it in Long Island. The past 4 years we've done it in different boroughs. We've done it in Washington Heights. Last year we were in Brooklyn. This year it's in Nassau, Long Island. Correct?
Right. Correct.
Okay. And it's a teen summit too?
Oh, well, the Teen Summit is September 8th.
Okay.
We, based off of our first trial run as when we did our Teen Summit, it was a snowstorm outside, and we had young people come out in a storm. And we just dialogued with them, and we got to know what the concerns were. And to hear young people in a room filled with adults they know nothing of to empty themselves out, and the first thing they say is that they're fearful of dying, that they don't want to live, and they're fearful of their future. It prompted us to say, you know what, we need to do another one. And then with so many deaths going on, you know, even in the Bronx alone, since June 17th until to date, there has been 42 deaths of young people. And it just, you know, it prompt something in me to say, you know what, I woke up and I say, you know what, we're going to do another Teen Summit, but this one, we want it to be 300 young people, and we want the 5 boroughs and the communities and the politics and the politicians and the news to come out to be a part of this, you know, event, because young people are crying out for help. They don't have the outlets, and when you have an outlet like Los Angeles Society, it is imperative that the community becomes a part of that outlet to plug into, so that, you know, we could change the mindsets of our young people, because we feel like if you change the mindset, you change their future.
Yeah, in the last segment, the State Senator, I know you couldn't hear, was talking a little bit about the void, and there's a void out there in terms of providing services, and then she talked in reference to the immigrant community. But when we look at the issues affecting young people, you know, we know there's community centers and gyms and things of that nature, but there also seems to be, from what you're saying, a void in terms of services as well.
Absolutely. Void in services, but I did want to touch on a point with Sydia just about the fear. There's so much fear in the youth today that they don't see anything else as a possibility. So if death is the only thing that you see, you feel like that's what you're walking into. You'll lash out in a different way, right? So just creating another possibility, an avenue, just another possibility for your life is really all that they just want to see and hear, and to come up with their own ideas, because they also have answers. They just don't know who to speak to, how to go about getting these answers across.
So before we go, please tell people, how do they get in touch with your organization if they wanted to take part?
So they can always go onto our website, which is the LosAngelesSociety.org. They can follow us on Instagram at TLAS 2011.
Correct.
They can also follow us at on Facebook at the LosAngelesSociety.com. And if there is ever a young person who is hungry, homeless, needs somebody to talk to, they can always reach out to us. My door is always open. If they knock on the doors, I'll open it. They can sleep on my floor. They can sleep on my couch. We just want the community to know that this is a 911 call to save our youth, and we cannot sit in the positions that we have and not do anything, because in order to be a part of the solution, you must first be a part of the process.
All right. Well, Sydia, Edgar, thank you so much for coming to the show. Let's keep up the great work that you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. Listen, taking a quick break. We got more open. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.
The person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, Invest in us. Watch us grow.
My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
El Diario La Prensa, the oldest Spanish newspaper in the nation, is opening its photo archives to the public for the first time in its 100-plus-year history. Here now telling us more about this history preservation project. Also, it's in conjunction with partnership with Columbia University. We welcome now former Bronx Bureau Chief for El Diario and BronxNet's very own Javier Gomez. And Javier, good to have you.
Good morning, Daren. It's great to talk to you. We've never spoken on air before, so this is pretty exciting.
I know we haven't talked, and then now we have to do this. We do this via Skype, and so it's real cool. But good to have you sharing with us, and talk to us a little bit about this project because it's a very special project. There's some really great photos, and they're in this thing called a morgue. And for people who don't know about the morgue, give us a little bit about the morgue.
We're talking about journalism lingo here. Basically, in the old days, before digital photography came around, newspapers placed photos in vaults. Over the years, these became huge storage rooms filled with boxes, and then they converted the name to morgues, as in photo morgue. And whenever reporters were writing stories that needed background, things that happened in the past, they would go into the morgue and then search, pull the boxes, and start opening them and finding all these treasures filled with history and ghosts and many great stories to tell.
Well, to give me a little bit about this, because there's some great photos out there, and we're seeing a couple of them now, but talk about the importance of these photos for the borough of the Bronx.
Well, this photo archive is really a treasure. It is really the only surviving paper photo archive of El Diario, the Spanish language daily newspaper, for the newspaper's entire 100-year history before they went digital in 2003. So pretty much the history of the Hispanic community and the African American community as seen by El Diario's photographers is documented there. My first encounter with the archive was in 1995. When I arrived in El Diario, I was a very young, green, naive intern while studying journalism at the City College. And part of my duties as an intern was to help maintain the photo archive.
Give me a little, well, and I want to ask this about these photo archives because you talked about being that young aspiring journalist and also the intern, but prior to 1970s, what actually happened with these photos?
Well, sadly, El Diario went through various relocations throughout its history. First of all, there were two newspapers. I'm not sure too many people remember. There was El Diario and there was La Prensa. Both papers merged. When the papers merged, they relocated, and a lot of the material was lost. Then they went to Varick Street, Hudson Street. Every time they relocated, a little collection was lost. On top of that, the morgue, when they were on Varick Street, the morgue lived in the basement of the newspaper. And for those familiar with the area, it's a little downhill going into the Holland Tunnel. The main water pipe broke on the street and flooded the entire photo morgue, ruining pretty much virtually every photo mid-1970s. So when El Diario, I worked at El Diario as a reporter after my years as an intern for about 4 years, and then El Diario brought me back in 2013 to help them orchestrate the centennial. We're looking for projects that meant legacy and preserving this archive, and not only saving it, but also making it available for the public. Anyone who wants to see it, from students, researchers, historians, or just people who want to see what's in there, that was at the top of our priority list. Luckily, when the project came around, I happened to be the person who knew the archive the best.
Wow. Pretty interesting history there. Let me ask this about people. You talk about people who may want to see these records and access them and see these photos. I mean, we saw some of them here, and they're pretty telling photos. I think we saw one of them actually was Dave Valentine early on. How do people get the opportunity to access these photos, and where do they go?
The photos lives in the rare book and manuscript library at Columbia University. There is a link online, so people who are interested in accessing the files can log on and request that specific materials be brought. The material was transferred to Columbia University about 5 years ago. In the process, Columbia has been going through everything, has been indexing by period, by photographer, and by other criteria, and finally the collection is now available. But they do need an appointment because these files are huge.
Okay, well, Javier, we thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we've got the information for how people can connect now, and hopefully they'll take advantage of seeing these very rare and some priceless photos. Javier Gomez, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you to Columbia University as well. By the way, they also took El Diario's library.
All right.
Check it out.
Well, thanks a lot, Javier. Talk to you real soon.
Thanks, Daren. See you soon.
See you in person. All right, talk to you later. Take a quick break. Listen, we got more show coming up after this, and if you like music, keep your ears tuned.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
And we are back. Opera Italiana is in the air. It's an annual event that has the aim of promoting knowledge and appreciation of Italian opera to everyone, especially the younger generations. Now the event gives the community the ability to experience opera for free. Here to discuss the event with us is Italian conductor Alvise Casellati, and we thank you for coming and sharing with us here on Open.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm inviting you to come.
Listen, I want to find out more about it. I'm sure other people want to find out more about it as well.
July 2nd, 6 p.m. This starts until 7:30, 8 o'clock. It's in Central Park, Naumburg Benchel. It's the beautiful shell. And the event is, we want to give a gift to the people of New York. Everybody can attend without paying a ticket and can experience Italian opera. Italian opera is not something difficult to comprehend. It's like popular music, is as cool as rock music and pop music. It's popular. It used to be popular music. Now it's some people believe it's for the elite. It's not, and it's a lot of fun, and people will just end up going away singing in Italian.
Well, and opera, as we said, you said it's not for the elite. A lot of people love opera, and there's some who are not so familiar with opera, but Italian opera, it has its own culture.
Italian opera, Italy is where opera was born 500 years ago. And still, it's, people study Italian because of opera. The singers, they come to live in Italy. And it's not a bad thing to go live in Italy. And we want to take a piece of Italy and give it to New York. And it's Italian is it's a perfect combination of vowel and what is the other one? I forgot the English word, but that makes it beautiful to sing. For singers, it's a really nice balance, and it's perfect for music.
So what can people expect? You're an Italian conductor. What can people expect on this day?
Well, to just go there, enjoy, sit down, bring their own chair, take a blanket, and make it, bring their families, bring kids, bring the grandmother, everybody, and just enjoy, listen and enjoy. It's going to be very pleasant, very easy.
The difference between playing in the park and playing maybe in a concert hall?
Well, it's a huge difference because the sound is more authentic in the concert hall, but here we will be amplified, there will be singers, and going to have the sound of nature. The birds sometimes talk to the flute. It's really magical what can happen in the park. It's, you know, those are things that you must go to understand. You cannot listen to a CD or a video. You have to be there.
July 2nd is the day. Tell us a couple people that are going to be performing.
Well, we have Puerto Rican singer Larissa Martinez, Cody Austin from the southern part of the U.S., from Florida. We're going to have David Pershall, who just had his debut at the Met. They're all very young and beautiful. We're going to have a vocalist who is Elga Davis, and Jennifer Zlatan. They will do the piece of contemporary music of Paola Prestini. And then we're going to have a little talent. She's 13 years old. 13. It's from the very young composer program, the New York Philharmonic. She's a new Mozart, and we will open with her piece. It's going to be a 2-minute piece, and we will ask her to say a few words, and people will say, is she an adult? She is amazing.
Wow.
As a speaker and as well as a composer. So we will enjoy, we will have a broad range of events, and last year people walked out of the park thinking, oh my God, I love opera. It's amazing. I didn't think I loved it. And so we hope to do this this year on July 2nd on Monday, and have, you know, give people a good time.
Central Park will be the place. We invite people to come. No, thank you, and we're looking for a great time. Hopefully great weather too.
Exactly.
That's right.
Words.
There it is. All righty. Well, listen, want to let you know we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us, but most of all, I want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Cablevision's Channel 67. If not, you can catch us on Verizon Fios, Channel 33, or watch us anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. And, of course, another special shout-out to all of those who are watching on the MNN channel, as Open is simulcast live on MNN during our live broadcast. For all of us here on the set of Open, I'm Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open. See you soon.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
If you want to stay in the know about the latest happenings in Español, check out Diálogo Abierto, BronxNet's own Spanish show, Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. on Channel 67. The latest in news, arts, culture, politics, and what's going on in your neighborhood. Diálogo Abierto, the best way to stay connected in Spanish.